YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, drop your comments down below, share the video with anyone that you think might be interested. And for those listening on Spotify, Apple, or any of the audio-only platforms, please follow, give us a 5-star review. All that stuff helps with the algorithms and getting the podcast out to more and more people. So it's much appreciated. All right, but now let's properly get into the United-Leicester game. Man United won 3-0 at home. I think we've beaten Leicester twice in 2 weeks or something, or less than 2 weeks in the Carabao Cup and now the league. It was Ruud van Nistelrooy's final game in charge. The news broke yesterday that he's officially left the club as well, so he won't be staying on as part of Amorim's backroom staff. But in terms of the game, I'll be honest, guys, I did watch it. I didn't choose to watch the Forest Newcastle game, which, by the way, Sky, what a stinker. How could you not put Ruud's final game in charge live to watch Forest against Newcastle? God, we've said it before on the pod. Sky love Newcastle. The amount of times I have to watch Newcastle on TV is just absolutely, it's abnormal to watch this much Newcastle on TV. They're just like they basically play rugby, and they're not any of the most entertaining teams in the league, but suddenly we've got to watch them all the time. But yeah, I did find a way to watch United Leicester. And it was a decent game, to be fair. Well, at least the first half was in my mind. But I'll get your opinions on it, guys. Bruno, Ahmad were probably our two best players, to be perfectly honest. They combined for the first goal, really nice finish. And then I know Bruno was saying the FPL, players that have got him in his team are going to be begging for him to get the second goal. But yeah, that's definitely an own goal. Actually, he's lucky that Christensen was there, because otherwise he was going to miss that from 7 yards out with an open goal. But yeah, 2-0 at half time. Second half, we should barely bother talking about it. It was kind of drab, not much going on except for Garnacho's curled winner at third goal near the end. So yeah, we won 3-0, pretty comfy in my mind. But yeah, I'll get your guys' opinions on the game and Van Nistelrooy. That decision anyway for Van Nistelrooy to leave. I'll start with you, Ed. What did you see the game, or did you watch more highlight? What did you think of the game?
Yeah, I've just seen highlights of the game. Yeah, like you said, Sky went for a top four clash over a relegation battle, so you can kind of see their logic there. But
Newcastle in the mud with us, mate. Come on.
No, yeah, I'm joking, obviously, but no, I just saw the highlights. Yeah, Bruno Fernandes does what he probably should have done more times this season, right? He's a big player for you guys and needs to stand up when the team's not performing well to carry you to results. So that's kind of what he did. I think the players were from my perspective, the players weren't playing for Ten Hag. Was it Dalot that missed that blatant open goal to get Erik Ten Hag sacked? There's a better bounce from you guys since Erik Ten Hag's left. But do you really think Amorim's the man to get you back up in the top four? That kind of remains to be seen.
I mean, I have my opinion on that. I mean, I'll John, quickly, but before we get into the Amorim bit, what did you make of the game? Did you watch it?
I did, because in China I can actually watch all of the games, and I can do it with English commentary as well. So I have that, Sky. But no, it was for the scoreline. It wasn't that entertaining of a match to watch. I'm going to be honest with you. I think Leicester were not great. And not seeing Vardy start, I was kind of doomed. I didn't think they had really any chance to do anything against you lot. But yeah, no, I think Bruno had a better game than he has had this season. I think it just shows when the quality of opposition is low, he looks good. When the quality of opposition is maybe a bit higher and you're playing against somebody a bit better, he stinks. So it remains to be seen whether I think he's actually at a higher level or really in form or not. But overall, I think, yeah, it was a pretty comfortable game for you guys. I'm gonna call out Jack Hermanson though, because my God, against us, you were literally prime Petr Cech, and against Man United, you were absolutely poor. The first and the third goal, I know Antony's not going to say this, right? But if that was any other goalkeeper, Antony would be getting on his goalkeeper bloody soapbox and saying that they should be getting a hand on that or doing something with that. And he got nowhere near either of them. And again, I know it's harsh on him because he's basically going to be a relegated goalkeeper, a lot like old Ramsdale. But honestly, he should be doing better than that on both of those, I think. I'm not saying he should say both of them. but he needs to get a hand on one of them at least. So I'm going to just call that out, because against us again, he literally put out like a 10 out of 10 performance and got man of the match. And against you lot, he's just doing charity and giving you 3 goals. Stinks.
That's the only reason why you're bringing that up, because he was top class against you guys. I don't think. I mean, the best keepers, your Allisons, maybe Emi Martinez, something like that. Like, they would maybe save that. The pure shot stoppy type goalies, right? They would maybe save that. The first one, definitely, I think. Even though he's a bit like, I saw the angle from behind, he's a bit like blindsided by one of the defenders, but still, you would expect him to get a hand onto it, because I don't think he touches at all. The Garnacho one, I don't know. Like, I haven't seen it again to know exactly where it landed in the net, but I feel like you're being a bit harsh.
It was nowhere near the side netting.
But I think it's mainly because he pulled off an absolute worldie against you guys, and it took you until like the 90th minute to score that. You're being harsh on him. But I thought this game was not high in quality. But I will also say, when we played Chelsea last week, and we did say it on last week's pod, that game also was not high quality. So I think it's just fair to say we are not high quality right now. So you can't expect us to put in high quality performances. And I kind of agree with the wider point. If you play a poor team, that's what the game's going to be like. I would argue that, Bruno and Ahmad's performance, I feel like, was probably the only ones in the team, and Ugarte was decent as well for once. In our team, they were probably the only 3 players that put in a good performance. Casemiro was okay as well. But I agree, the wider point that Ed made earlier, it's very obvious, and it pretty much always is obvious after a team sacks a manager, that you start to see which players weren't playing for him, and then you can judge whether or not the kind of the change room kicked out the manager. And I think it was very obvious that the players weren't playing for Ten Hag anymore. I would argue probably stopped playing for him post FA Cup last season. I remember there were leaks coming out saying that the players were quite shocked that he was still in the job after we did that, internal review or whatever it is. So it was quite obvious, I think, that they had decided, or they have come to the conclusion, that he wasn't the man pretty much from the start of this season. So I'm glad that we pulled the trigger and we've got rid of him. And to answer Ed's earlier question, is Amorim going to be the guy to get us to top 4? I'll be honest with you, man, and this is going to sound crazy considering how low we are in the table and how mudded we are, but we haven't had a massive problem with getting in the top 4. Like, we've generally always, we've been in the top 4, then maybe we'll miss out one season, but then we'll get right back into it. And we've kind of taken, turns at going in the top 4, even finishing 3rd and 2nd and stuff like that. So I'm not even going to measure him based on top 4. My measurement is top 4 is a given in the first couple of seasons. Like, I'm not going to say like Ten Hag, like maybe it will take him 2 seasons and that's totally fine. But that's not what I'm judging him on. Like, he needs to put us in to title contention. By the time he's, I would say, at the end of that extended, because he's got a 2.5-year contract, but the option for a 3rd. By the time he's in that, done the 3rd season, we should be either firmly solidified in 3rd or whatever in the top 4, if not looking like we're really gonna contend for the title. Otherwise, it's not been a success, because I can't lower the bar. Ten Hag even managed to get top 4. We're not even talking about the trophies that you always talked about. He managed to get top 4. Mourinho managed to get top 4. Oli managed to get it seasons back to back. I think even Van Gaal managed to get top 4. So I can't, all of these managers are being seen as not ultimately being a success or being a failure because they're not still there. So I'm going to judge Amorim by higher standards than just top 4. We're definitely going big on the whole Calafiori angle with him and the aura and stuff like that. I'm seeing all these like bloody Vogue photo shoot shots of Amorim laughing and shaking the dinner lady's hand and all this kind of stuff. And we're definitely going big on the old PR for him. But yeah, let's see how he works out. Let's get into the Van Nistelrooy question then. I'll ask you, Ed, first. Do you think it's a mistake not keeping him on the? as one of Amorim's backroom staff, or do you think it's the right decision to kick him, Rene Hack, and a bunch of Ten Hag staff to the curb?
He's bringing over a lot of his backroom staff, right? And he's bringing over his own assistant manager. Is the same assistant manager?
It's more than that. Yeah. He's bringing 5 or 6 guys from Sporting.
Yeah. Like, he's not going to bring. What's Van Nistelrooy going to do? He's going to want to be assistant manager. He's not going to go collect the cones at training, is he? So he's not really going to. Amorim can't just give him that position. I think he's got to come in with his own mantra and his own staff and his clear way of playing football. I don't think it makes sense really to have Van Nistelrooy in there. And I don't think Van Nistelrooy really needs to either. He needs to go off and perfect his own trade. Can he get a managerial position of his own and show what he's about? Because he's looked good under the 2 games for United. But I don't think it really makes sense for him to just slot back in as assistant manager. You need to have a new clean slate and start afresh.
Yeah, I think the argument going around is people not really knowing whether he was Ten Hag's preferred assistant coach or whether like Ineos brought him in, because obviously Ten Hag had his guys at the end of last season who left, and it was kind of unclear as to whether Van Nistelrooy was his choice or he was kind of brought in. There's obviously all of that conspiracy that he was brought in to be like take over when Ten Hag got sacked and do the interim job until the end of the season, and that's why Ineos brought him in. So it's a bit of a sticky one. What do you think, Jonts? Do you think it's right? Do you agree with Ed to kick him out, or do you think he should have been kept on?
I think it makes sense to get rid of him. I think a lot of managers tend to like obviously bringing in their own people, and particularly a lot of the people that Ten Hag ended up getting were all Dutch guys. So I'm assuming there's a language thing to it, there's a culture thing to it that you kind of want to keep between your staff. I think if you look at most managers in the league today, like Arteta's got a lot of Spaniards in his staff. I think Pep's got the same. I think you're probably going to end up seeing a lot of managers do that same thing. So it makes sense for Amorim to bring in his Portuguese guys that he's worked with, can speak more comfortably with, and kind of talk about tactics with. And I think, honestly, keeping Van Nistelrooy around, I don't think it's any fault of his own, but it's kind of like a backup plan, in my opinion. And I think having that backup plan, there's always the chance if Amorim's not going not doing so well for the team, or he's taking a while to bed in, there's going to be, impatient Man United fans saying, "Oh, just get Ruud back in because he's just done so well." You know what I mean? Like, that is not, I think, what you want to get off on the right start or on the right foot as Man United manager. I think you kind of need to get rid of all of the, the parachutes, get rid of all of the backup plans, and just say, okay, this is what we're going to go full in on. And I think by keeping around Ruud, you might have actually created, even more of a media circus than already exists around Man United, which is one of the things that he's going to have to deal with. And he already had it from bloody Gary Cottrell or whatever, bloody forcing him to try and speak English. Like, he's going to have to deal with that issue, that media issue, more so than probably any other manager in the league. And that's going to be tough. So he doesn't need to have like another thing added onto that of Ruud van Nistelrooy in the background, kind of adding more questions and putting more kind of fuel onto the fire. So I think it makes sense to get rid of him. And I agree with Ed. I think Van Nistelrooy needs to be a manager. Like, he's managed PSV. He's won titles, or a title. He should go and try and get another job somewhere else. I mean, he could go and bloody manage West Ham if he wants, because it looks like Lopetegui's absolutely useless. So I think he's good enough to go and get one of those other jobs. He could go and get a championship job and kind of do a Maresca, Kieran McKenna type of thing and try and get them up and see if that leads to something in the league. Who knows? But I think he's too good to be an assistant manager anyway, or I think he's too ambitious maybe to be an assistant manager.
Yeah, no, I agree, man. I was it's quite frustrating because there's obviously quite a lot of ex-United players in our media, and they've all been kind of like, they've not quite done the Rio thing where they've got the contract on the table and say sign here on the dotted line for Ollie, for example, but they've started the media narrative around Van Nistelrooy, right, in these 4 games. Oh, he looks the part, he's saying the right things, it's the most authority we've seen for a while, all digs at Ten Hag, which is fair enough. But also kind of just creating this buzz around it to try and almost build up a bit of media buzz around him as a manager to I don't know. maybe help him get another job in England afterwards, or to, who knows, maybe keep him on the staff. I saw a lot of, I think Rio and Gary Neville were talking about trying to keep him there as part of Amorim's backroom staff, to have some sort of, he knows the club, etc., all of that kind of rubbish. But I totally disagree with that, and I agree with you guys. You've got to give the new manager that feeling that he's, trusted, and give him the security of bringing in all of his backroom staff to give him the best chance possible to succeed. And I feel like you're getting into dodgy territory when you start dictating to a manager. Well, he's not even a manager, is he? He's a head coach, right? We've gone down the modern route of head coach, I think he is. To give them the people around them. If you start saying, no, I'm going to bring in an assistant coach to work with you, and like you said, John, they don't have a cultural fit, or there's no synergy because there's like a language barrier, or they've got different ideas about football, then you're in big trouble, man. You're going to start seeing like what happened, which is why I believe Van Nistelrooy wasn't a Ten Hag choice. You saw that in the technical area, right? A couple of times before Ten Hag was being sacked, they were having a go back and forth, or they didn't seem to like have a great relationship in terms of like between the two as a coach. So you want to give Amorim the best chance. And yeah, but that's before we even get into the media stuff, because yeah, he'll obviously get media scrutiny, and he'll get all that comes with being a United manager as well. So I'm glad that Ineos have made that decision, or Amorim, or whoever's come up with that decision to let Van Nistelrooy leave and just have a clean break. And now we got to see how it goes. He's obviously got these 2 weeks now in the international break to try and get to know the environment, and the staff and the other people that work at the club, and spend some time with the players who are either injured or not at international duty, which it looks like from the England squad anyway. This international break is going to be like, you're going to be calling up all these players without caps, because a lot of players are pulling out, and I know Cole Palmer's not playing. I think Saka's pulled out, Rice has pulled out. You've got a lot of the big players pulling out, so yeah, it will be interesting to see how he does. And then we've obviously got Ipswich away. We'll be buzzing after beating Spurs on their own patch. So that will be tough. And it will be Kieran McKenna, who we were obviously linked with heavily in the summer to replace Ten Hag. So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. I'm sure that will probably be like a 12:30 kickoff on TNT Sports or something. So they've got all the TV cameras in Amorim's face as soon as he steps in.